Great. Good morning, everyone. I've got a question for you this morning, straight up to begin with. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be a king or a queen for a day? Have you ever given that much thought? I wonder what it would be like. What would you do with all that power and all that wealth? I'll tell you what I'd do. Thanks for asking. If it was me and I could be king for a day, I'd wake up in my royal bedroom and I would order my servants to bring me the biggest stack of pancakes imaginable. That's how I'd start my day. And then to kind of exercise a little bit, I would invite all my friends over and all my family, and I would have the biggest game of hide and seek you have ever seen. Just to say, like, Buckingham Palace, if that was my home, that has 775 rooms. Yeah, it's amazing. And so that would probably take most of the day. But when I'm done with that, I think I'd walk into the throne room and I'd sit on the throne and I'd take a little selfie of me on the throne, maybe, something like this. Look at that. In actual fact, forget selfies. What I would actually do is get the royal artist to paint my portrait, something like this, maybe. Yeah, I think that's more me. And then after that, while they're just kind of putting the finishing touches on, I would jump on my royal helicopter and I'd have a little fly around and go and visit some of my other kind of little palaces around the country. And to finish it off, I'd come back and I'd sit in my royal dining room and order the biggest bowl of ice cream you've ever seen. Something like that. It would be amazing. In a few weeks' time, this nation and people from all over the world are going to be tuning in to watch as a new monarch is crowned King of England, Charles III. And it'll be the first time that many of us in our lifetime have ever seen a king or a queen crowned in this country. And what's an absolute result is that many of us will get a day off. Well, hey, kids, you won't have to go to school so that, yes, I saw that, yes, so that all of us get the opportunity to watch this historic event. Crowds will gather in London and line the road from Buckingham Palace all the way down the road to Westminster Abbey to witness the king receive his crown. And right now, hundreds of people are all busy, hard at work, making preparations for the day, which is estimated to cost up to £100 million. It's a lot of money spent on the day. King Charles III will come out of Buckingham Palace and he will get on the golden state coach, which is this one on the screen here. It is covered in gold. It's beautiful. It's 260 years old. It's 7 meters long and it weighs 4 tons, which, if you're wondering how much is 4 tons, is the same weight as 222 penguins. That's how heavy it is. It's so heavy and so big that it has to be pulled by 8 massive royal horses. And they'll only be able to walk, at walking speed, about like this, because it's so heavy and it's so old that if it went any faster, it would just probably fall to pieces. 12,000 soldiers, many with swords and helmets, will follow the king down the road in his stagecoach. And actually, as well as that, there will be 10 other horse-drawn carriages that will be filled with royal family members and other leaders from the Commonwealth, all coming down the road behind the king. And thousands of police will all line the road, keeping people back behind the barriers as they all kind of take a little look. And when the king eventually gets to Westminster Abbey, he'll come out of his stagecoach and he'll walk down a red carpet into Westminster Abbey, and eventually he will sit on a throne. And this throne is 700 years old. And lots of kings and queens for centuries have all sat on the same throne. And eventually, the moment that everyone has been waiting for, the crown will be placed on his head, this crown here. And when that happens, everyone will say, "God save the king! God save the king!" Just like that. You've got to say it like that. You can't say it like, "God save the king." You've got to say, "God save the king! God save the king!" It's just like that. Do you want to have a practice? Let's have a practice. Let's try it. Ready? After 3. That's rubbish. Rubbish. Come on. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3. God save the king. Yeah, that's good. That's what's going to happen as the crown is placed on his head. And this crown is amazing. I Googled the other day, just because I'm interested, how much is the crown worth? You know what Google said? And Google is always true. Google said, that's not true, kids, caveat. Google said that some people would say the crown is priceless. It's worth so much that you can't put a value on it. But actually, other people said, yeah, if you want to kind of know a ballpark figure, if you wanted to buy it, it would cost you £3 billion. That is a lot of money, isn't it? £3 billion. Imagine having that sat on your head, something worth that much. No wonder it's only used for special occasions. I mean, you wouldn't want to kind of go to the beach wearing something like that, or walk the dog in the rain with a £3 billion hat. Amazing. It's worth £3 billion because at the bottom of it, it's got a gold rim that is solid gold. And it's covered in 3,000 precious stones, which includes 2,868 diamonds. It's amazing, isn't it? Everything about the procession, everything about the whole day and the ceremony is designed to show off the king's wealth and his power and his strength. It's kind of what's expected of kings and queens. In the Bible story we had read earlier to us, Jesus is described as a king, and he's coming down the road into the city of Jerusalem, and crowds are all lining the road watching as Jesus comes in, the king in Jerusalem. And as the Son of God, this King Jesus, he is more powerful and stronger and more wealthy than any other earthly king. In fact, the Bible describes Jesus in this way. It says, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. Well, you don't get much more powerful than that, do you? But what's incredible about the story is that Jesus doesn't come into the city like normal kings do. He's been making preparations, but they're very different from normal preparations. There's no golden coach. There's no army following behind him. There's no royal horses following. There's no red carpet instead. Instead, he instructs his disciples to go and find not a noble steed, but instead to go and get a donkey to ride on. The red carpet is replaced by borrowed coats and borrowed leaves. It was all intentional to fulfill what the prophets had said hundreds of years ago when they said, "See, your king comes to you, gentle and riding on a donkey." You know, in ancient times, if kings came into the city on the way back from, war, they would travel on horses. You might have kind of recognized this guy up here as a guy called Julius Caesar. Anyone study the Romans, done a Roman project at school? Yeah? Well, you'll probably know this dude. Julius Caesar, he once came into the city of Rome riding on a horse with thousands and thousands of captured people from the battles he had been in. And as he came into the city, all of his army threw gold coins out into the crowds. So that's kind of like what happens when people come in strength and power. But also, we read in history that if a king was coming into the city and they wanted to demonstrate they were coming in peace, they would ride a donkey. As Jesus enters into the city, he could have shown off his great power and his strength, but instead we read that he comes in peace. He doesn't come in forcefully or aggressively, but we read he comes into the city gently. And all the crowds, they start shouting and cheering as we heard read. They say, "Hosanna to the Son of David," which basically means Hosanna to the ultimate King of Kings. Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest heavens. You know, they were super excited that Jesus was coming in because they thought that Jesus was going to save them from the horrible Roman army, the dictators of the time. But Jesus doesn't come into the city in a massive plot twist. He doesn't come into the city to receive a crown. He actually comes into the city to lay his crown down. He's not a king that people were expecting. And because of that, in a few days' time, the shouts of "Hosanna, welcome," turn to shouts of "Crucify him, kill him." This wasn't a failed attempt of Jesus to be crowned king, but all part of his plan to come and die on a cross. But far from the story being over the next week, at Easter time, we'll celebrate that this King Jesus rose to life again and is alive today. We have a king who is alive right now, King Jesus. And he is seated on the throne in heaven and rules over all things. He is powerful and strong and has wealth beyond imagination. But do you know what the incredible thing is? This powerful king, he still wants to come to each one of us in peace and gently. And that's who we have. That's who we can get to know. That's who rules over us, and that's who also wants to be our friend this morning.